Last week, I traced an immigrant ancestor from his Pennsylvania death certificate all the way back to his baptism record in a small German church. The entire journey, death certificate to naturalization papers to Ellis Island to Hamburg to German church records, took me about 6 hours of focused research using AI tools. 6 hours. To cross the Atlantic backward and forward through 120 years of records. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly what I did. Every tool I used, every prompt that worked, every mistake I made, every document I found, because I want you to be able to do this exact same research journey for your immigrant ancestor. By the end of this episode, you'll have the complete roadmap for tracing any immigrant ancestor from tombstone to hometown. Let's dive in. Welcome to Ancestors and Algorithms, where family history meets artificial intelligence. I'm your host, Brian, and today's episode is special because I'm going to share a complete immigrant research case study I worked through last week. Here's what happened. I decided to challenge myself. Could I trace a German immigrant from his 1923 Pennsylvania death certificate all the way back to his birth records in Germany using primarily AI tools? How long would it take? What would work? What wouldn't work? So I picked Heinrich Mueller, a German blacksmith who died in Pennsylvania, and I spent about 6 hours working through his complete document trail. And I documented everything. Every AI tool I used, every prompt, every success, and every frustration. Today, I'm going to walk you through that entire research journey, not as I'm doing it, but showing you what I learned and how you can replicate this process for your own immigrant ancestor. Before I dive into the research, let me tell you what I started with. Family information said Heinrich Mueller died in Pennsylvania in 1923. He was a blacksmith. He was married to Carolina. They had children. He came from somewhere in Germany in the early 1900s. That's it. That's the classic vague family story we all deal with. My goal was simple. Find his exact birthplace in Germany and document his complete immigration journey. I ended up using 4 different AI tools throughout this research. Claude for systematic document analysis, Perplexity for research planning, ChatGPT for form extraction, and Gemini for handwriting transcription. Each tool had a specific role, and I'll explain why I chose each one as we go through the case study. Now, before I share the research process, I want to set your expectations. This episode is longer than usual, about 45 minutes or so, because I'm not going to skip steps or gloss over details. I want you to see the complete methodology so you can apply it to your own research. Grab your notebook because you're going to want to copy down some of these prompts. Or you can visit our Facebook group, Ancestors and Algorithms, AI for Genealogy, where I'll be posting these prompts throughout this week. Let's start at the beginning, the death certificate. So the first thing I did was locate Heinrich's Pennsylvania death certificate from 1923. I found it on Family Search. It was already digitized, which made things easy. When I pulled up the image, I immediately knew why AI was going to be essential for this project. The handwriting on this death certificate was, let's just say, challenging. You know how it is with these old records. The registrar was writing quickly, the informant was probably grieving and speaking with an accent, and 100 years later, we're trying to decipher whether something says Bavaria or Bohemia. I decided to start with Claude for this document analysis, and I'll tell you why. Claude Sonnet 4.5 has a massive 200,000 token context window, which means it can handle multiple images and maintain complex information. More importantly, it's really systematic about extracting structured data from forms. When you're looking at a death certificate with 15 to 20 different fields, you may want something that won't miss details. Here's the approach I took. Instead of just uploading the death certificate and saying, "Read this," I crafted a specific prompt that told Claude exactly what I needed. This is important. The quality of your AI results depends heavily on the quality of your prompts. Here's the exact prompt I used. Quote, "You are an expert genealogist analyzing a historical death certificate. I need you to extract all information from this Pennsylvania death certificate from 1923, paying special attention to, number 1, full name and any name variations. Number 2, exact death date and place. Number 3, birth date and place, including any geographic details about the birthplace. Number 4, parents' names and birthplaces. Number 5, spouse information. Number 6, occupation. Number 7, informant information. Who provided this information? And number 8, any handwriting that is unclear or ambiguous, flag these for me. Please organize the information in a clear, structured format. For any fields where the handwriting is difficult to read, give me your best interpretation and note that it's uncertain," end quote. I uploaded the death certificate image and sent that prompt to Claude. What I got back was incredibly useful. Claude gave me this organized breakdown. Full name, Heinrich Mueller, also could be Henry Mueller. Death date, March 15, 1923. Death place, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. Birth date, approximately 1875, age 48 at death. Birthplace, uncertain. Appears to say Württemberg, Germany, but the handwriting is unclear. Father's name, Johann Mueller. Mother's name, uncertain, possibly Maria or Marie. Spouse, Carolina Mueller. Occupation, blacksmith. Informant, Wilhelm Mueller, son, residing at the same address. The key thing Claude did, and this is why I love this tool for document analysis, was flagging what was certain versus uncertain. It told me straight up, I can read this field clearly, but this other field is ambiguous. Looking at Claude's analysis, I immediately saw several important research leads. First, the birthplace said Württemberg, Germany. I feel the need I should apologize to my German listeners. I do not speak German. I am trying my best. Now, Württemberg isn't a city, it's a region. It's like saying someone was born in the Midwest. So I knew right away I'd need to find more specific location information in other documents. Second, I had his father's name, Johann Mueller. That was going to be crucial later when I search German church records because I'd need to match father's name to confirm I had the right person. Third, the informant was his son Wilhelm. That told me the information was probably pretty reliable. Immediate family members usually know these details better than neighbors or funeral directors. Fourth, I now had an approximate birth year, 1875. This would help me narrow down immigration records because I'd be looking for a Heinrich Mueller in his early 30s around 1907. Now, here's what I want you to understand about this first step. What Claude gave me wasn't a final answer. It was a research hypothesis to test. My hypothesis based on the death certificate was Heinrich Mueller was born in Württemberg, Germany around 1875 to Johann and possibly Marie Mueller. He immigrated sometime in the early 1900s, worked as a blacksmith in Pennsylvania, married Carolina, and had at least 2 children, including Wilhelm. That's a solid starting point, but I needed to verify it with additional documents because death certificates can have errors. The informant might have been wrong. The register might have misspelled the German place name. The age might be off by a few years. This is where that golden rule we talk about comes into play. AI is your research assistant, not your researcher. Claude helped me read the document efficiently and extract the information systematically, but it was my job to recognize that this was just the beginning. I needed to build a trail of evidence, not rely on a single source. So, with this information in hand, my next question was, where do I look next? What record should I be searching for? That's when I turned to Perplexity. After analyzing the death certificate, I needed to figure out my next steps. I had some basic information, but I needed a strategy. Where should I look for records? What documents would give me the most information? What's the typical paper trail for a German immigrant in this time period? I've learned that Perplexity is absolutely perfect for this kind of research planning. If you haven't used it yet, think of it as a research librarian that's always connected to current genealogy resources and gives you citations for everything. I wanted answers to several questions. What records exist for German immigrants who arrived around 1907? Where would Heinrich's naturalization records be stored if he became a citizen in Pennsylvania? What's the best way to search Ellis Island for someone from Württemberg? What German records would be available for someone born in Württemberg in 1875? Instead of spending hours Googling and clicking through random genealogy blogs, I decided to ask Perplexity and get synthesized cited answers quickly. I opened Perplexity, using the free version by the way, and asked my first question. Quote, for a German immigrant who died in Pennsylvania in 1923, what is the typical document trail I should follow to trace them back to Germany? Assume they immigrated around 1907 and were naturalized. What records should I look for and in what order? End quote. What Perplexity gave me was exactly what I needed, a comprehensive research roadmap with sources cited. It told me the typical trail is 1. Death certificate, already done. Number 2, naturalization records, both declaration of intention and full petition. Number 3, passenger arrival records at the port of entry, likely Ellis Island for 1907. Number 4, ship departure records from Germany. Number 5, German civil registration or church records. It cited specific sources too, National Archives guidelines, Ancestry.com's record collections, and the Family Search Wiki for Pennsylvania records. Most importantly, it confirmed that naturalization records would be my best next step because they typically contain more specific birthplace information than death certificates. Then I asked a more targeted question. Quote, where can I find naturalization records for Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, from the 1910s and 1920s? What information will these records typically include for German immigrants? End quote. Perplexity told me Allegheny County naturalization records are on both Ancestry.com and Family Search. Records from this period usually include full name, specific birthplace, not just the region, arrival date and port, and sometimes the actual ship name. There are 2 documents to find, Declaration of Intent, the first papers, and Petition for Naturalization, final papers. It even provided direct links to the Family Search catalog and Ancestry collections. This was huge because it told me exactly what to expect. If I could find Heinrich's naturalization papers, I'd likely get his specific birth town, not just Württemberg, and possibly his ship name, which would make finding the Ellis Island record much easier. What Perplexity did for me in about 5 minutes would have taken me hours of manual research. It synthesized information from multiple authoritative sources and gave me a clear strategic research plan. Step 1, find Heinrich's naturalization records in Allegheny County. Step 2, use the ship name and arrival date to find his Ellis Island record. Step 3, use the specific German birthplace to search German records. Instead of wandering around hoping to stumble on the right records, I had a strategic roadmap backed by cited sources. Now, if you're researching ancestors from other locations, the process is identical. You just ask Perplexity about your specific county and state. Quote, where can I find naturalization records for Cook County, Illinois, end quote. Or, quote, what immigration records exist for Boston in the 1850s, end quote. The tool works the same way. For my UK and Australian listeners, this is where you'd ask about passenger lists from UK ports or immigration records in Australian state archives. Same methodology, different record sets. Armed with this research plan, I knew exactly what to look for next: naturalization papers. Following Perplexity's guidance, I went to Family Search and searched their Pennsylvania naturalization records. I got lucky. I found both of Heinrich's documents, his Declaration of Intent from 1910 and his petition for naturalization from 1917. These were exactly what I needed. Pre-printed forms with both typed and handwritten information. Some portions had that old typewriter font. Other parts had handwriting that was, let's say, variable in quality. For these documents, I decided to use ChatGPT. Now, you might be wondering why I switched from Claude. Here's my reasoning. ChatGPT, specifically GPT-5, which is what's currently available as of November 2025, is particularly good at extracting structured data from forms and creating organized summaries. It handles the mix of typed and handwritten text on official forms really well. I opened ChatGPT and used the free version for this. I wanted to show that you don't need to pay for this capability. My strategy was to upload both naturalization documents together so ChatGPT could cross-reference them and flag any discrepancies. This is important for catching errors or inconsistencies. Here's the prompt I used. Quote, I'm providing two naturalization documents for the same person, a Declaration of Intent from 1910 and a petition for naturalization from 1917. Please, number 1, extract all information from both documents. Number 2, create a timeline showing any information that appears in both documents. Number 3, note any discrepancies between the two documents. Number 4, pay special attention to exact birthplace, arrival date, port of entry, ship name, and any witnesses named. Number 5, for any handwritten portions that are unclear, provide your best interpretation and flag it as uncertain. Format this as a research summary I can save for my genealogy notes, end quote. I uploaded both images and sent the prompt. What ChatGPT gave me back was gold. Declaration of Intent, 1910. Full name, Heinrich Mueller. Age, 35. Birthplace, Stuttgart, Württemberg, Germany. Departed from Hamburg, Germany. Arrived Ellis Island, New York. Arrival date, September 12, 1907. Ship, Kaiser Wilhelm II. Petition for naturalization, 1917. Full name, Henry Mueller, anglicized spelling. Age, 42. Birthplace, Stuttgart, Württemberg, Germany, consistent. Arrival date, September 12, 1907, consistent. Port, New York, consistent. Current address, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. Occupation, blacksmith. Wife, Carolina Mueller. Children, Wilhelm, age 9, and Anna, age 7. Witnesses, 2 neighbors who testified to his good character. Discrepancies noted, none significant, just the name variation between Heinrich and Henry, which was common. Look at what I just got from these 2 documents. I went from somewhere in Württemberg to Stuttgart, Württemberg. I went from around 1907 to September 12, 1907, arriving at Ellis Island on the Kaiser Wilhelm II. This was exactly what I needed to find his Ellis Island arrival record. Let me explain why I structured that prompt the way I did. First, I uploaded both documents together. This was crucial because it allowed ChatGPT to compare the information and catch any discrepancies. If Heinrich had given different birth years or different arrival dates on the 2 documents, ChatGPT would have flagged that inconsistency. Second, I asked for a research summary format. This wasn't just for the AI, it was for me. I wanted something I could copy directly into my research log. The format matters when you're building a research file. Third, I specifically asked it to flag uncertain information. This reminded me not to treat AI-interpreted handwriting as absolute fact. It's a good interpretation that I still needed to verify. Fourth, I asked for specific pieces of information: birthplace, arrival date, ship name. These were the breadcrumbs I needed to continue tracing Heinrich's journey. Now, I need to be honest with you. This wasn't my first attempt. My initial prompt was much vaguer. I just said, quote, transcribe these naturalization documents, end quote. And you know what ChatGPT gave me? A word-for-word transcription of every single field on both forms, including all the boilerplate legal language about renouncing allegiance to foreign sovereigns and swearing loyalty to the United States. It was technically correct, but it wasn't useful. I didn't need verbatim transcription of legal boilerplate. I needed a research summary extracting the genealogical significant information. So I refined my prompt. I told ChatGPT exactly what I needed and why, and that's when I got the useful results. This is something I learned during this research. Your first prompt probably won't be perfect. That's okay. AI tools are conversational. You can refine, redirect, and ask follow-up questions. Don't be intimidated by the idea that you need to get it right on the first try. So, now I had Heinrich's exact arrival information. September 12, 1907 at Ellis Island on the Kaiser Wilhelm II, departing from Hamburg. Time to find that ship manifest. With the specific information from the naturalization papers, finding Heinrich on Ellis Island was straightforward. The Ellis Island Foundation database at heritage.statueofliberty.org is searchable and free. I searched for name Heinrich Mueller. I also tried Henry Mueller. Ship Kaiser Wilhelm II. Arrival date September 12, 1907. Port New York. Departure Hamburg. And there he was. Heinrich Mueller, age 32, on the Kaiser Wilhelm II, September 12, 1907. The manifest was available as a digital image, 2 pages, which is typical for this era. The first page had basic passenger information. The second page had detailed questions about family, money carried, destination, literacy, and more. This is where I decided to use Gemini for transcription, and I'll tell you exactly why. I switched to Gemini 2.5 for these ship manifest pages for a specific reason. Gemini 2.5, particularly when accessed through Google AI Studio, has had a major breakthrough in handwritten text recognition. The accuracy is significantly better than what I was getting from the other tools I'd been using. Ship manifests from 1907 are entirely handwritten. Multiple handwriting styles, sometimes the same document was filled out by different immigration officers. The information is dense and detailed. For this kind of document, I wanted the best handwriting recognition available. Now, you might be thinking, Gemini is just Google's chatbot, right? Yes and no. Gemini is available in several places: the standard Gemini app, Google AI Studio, and integrated into various Google products. For genealogy document transcription, Google AI Studio gives the most accurate results. It's a simpler interface without some of the helpful features that can sometimes reduce transcription accuracy. Google AI Studio is completely free. You just need a Google account. I opened Google AI Studio and uploaded both pages of Heinrich Ship Manifest. Here's the prompt I used. Quote, you are an expert genealogist analyzing a 1907 Ellis Island ship manifest. Please transcribe all information for the passenger Heinrich Mueller, including page 1 information, name, age, sex, marital status, occupation, nationality, last residence, final destination, whether they've been to the U.S. before. Page 2 information, who paid their passage, how much money they're carrying, who they're meeting in America, physical description, health status. Organize this information clearly and flag any handwriting that's difficult to interpret, end quote. I uploaded both images and sent the prompt. What came back was impressive. Gemini transcribed the manifest with remarkable accuracy. Page 1, name Heinrich Mueller, age 32, sex male, marital status married, occupation Schmied, German for blacksmith, again I apologize for my German, nationality German, last residence Stuttgart, Württemberg, final destination Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, been to U.S. before? No. Traveling with wife Carolina, age 28, and son Wilhelm, age 2 months. Page 2, passage paid by self. Amount of money, $45. Meeting, brother-in-law in Pittsburgh. Physical description, height, 5'8", brown hair, brown eyes. Health, good, no diseases. Can read and write, yes. Now, look at what I learned from this manifest that I didn't know before. First, Heinrich didn't travel alone. He came with his wife and newborn son. That's significant because it tells me this was a permanent family migration, not a temporary labor move. Second, he had $45 when he arrived. That's roughly $1,500 in today's dollars, enough to get started but not wealthy. Third, he was meeting his brother-in-law in Pittsburgh. This tells me Carolina probably had family who had already immigrated. That's a research thread I could follow later to learn more about her family line. Fourth, his last residence was confirmed as Stuttgart, Württemberg. 3 independent sources now, death certificate, naturalization papers, and Ellis Island manifest, all pointing to Stuttgart. This is what genealogical proof standard looks like in practice. I didn't accept the death certificate's vague Württemberg. I found naturalization papers that specified Stuttgart, Württemberg. And now I had the Ellis Islands manifest created the day Heinrich stepped foot in America, confirming Stuttgart. 3 independent sources all agreeing. That's how you know you're on solid ground. And this brings us back to that golden rule. AI is your research assistant, not your researcher. The AI tools help me read these documents efficiently and extract information systematically. But it was my responsibility as the researcher to verify information across multiple sources and build that chain of evidence. Now, I knew Heinrich came from Stuttgart. He left from Hamburg. My next questions were, what do Hamburg departure records show? And what records still exist in Stuttgart? Okay, let's pause here and recap what I accomplished in the first part of this research. I started with Heinrich Mueller's Pennsylvania death certificate from 1923. Using Claude, I systematically extracted every piece of information, including his approximate birthplace of Württemberg, Germany. Then I used Perplexity to build a research strategy. It told me exactly where to look for naturalization records and what information to expect. That saved me hours of searching. Next, I used ChatGPT to analyze both of Heinrich's naturalization documents together. That gave me his specific birthplace of Stuttgart and his exact arrival information, September 12, 1907 at Ellis Island on the Kaiser Wilhelm II. Finally, I used Gemini 2.5 to transcribe his Ellis Island manifest with high accuracy. I learned he traveled with his wife and infant son, carried $45, and was meeting family in Pittsburgh. That's a complete picture of his American life, but I still needed to trace him backward to his German origins. I needed to cross the language barrier and work with German records. Here's what I did in the second half of my research. I found Heinrich's departure record from Hamburg. Those records are digitized and searchable. Then I tackled the challenge of German church records. I worked with Old German script, and I'm going to show you both the AI in a pinch approach and when you really need specialized tools like Transcribus. Let me take you through the rest of the journey. So I knew Heinrich left Hamburg on September 12, 1907 on the Kaiser Wilhelm II. What many people don't realize is that Hamburg kept incredibly detailed passenger departure records, and these records are digitized and available through Family Search and Ancestry. The Hamburg passenger lists are fantastic because they often include information that Ellis Island records don't have, like the exact neighborhood or village of origin, not just the city. I went to Family Search and searched their Hamburg passenger list 1850 to 1934 collection. I searched for name Heinrich Mueller, including variant spellings, departure date early September 1907, ship Kaiser Wilhelm II, destination New York. I found his departure record. The document was a printed passenger list with handwritten annotations, typical for this era. Here's where things got interesting. The Hamburg record had several columns in German. I could read Heinrich's name, his age, the ship name, but there were German abbreviations and terminology I didn't immediately understand. I turned back to Perplexity to help me interpret what I was seeing. Quote, what information is typically included in Hamburg passenger departure list from 1907? What do the column headings mean? Specifically, what does Letzter Wohnort mean, and what does Staatsangehörigkeit mean? End quote. Perplexity told me Letzter Wohnort means last residence or last place of residence. Staatsangehörigkeit means nationality or citizenship. Hamburg lists often include age, occupation, destination, and sometimes even the specific street address of their last residence. It cited German genealogy resources and the Family Search Wiki for this information. Armed with this knowledge, I looked back at the record. The column labeled Letzter Wohnort showed Stuttgart Böblinger Straße 34. This was huge. I didn't just know Stuttgart anymore. I had a street address. Böblinger Straße 34 in Stuttgart. That's where Heinrich lived before he left for America. Having a street address was interesting, but for genealogy purposes, I needed to know which parish or church would have kept records for that area. Church records, not street addresses, are what matter for finding birth and baptism records. I went back to Perplexity with another question. Quote, in 1907, what parish or church would have served the Böblinger Straße area of Stuttgart, Germany? How can I find Lutheran or Catholic church records for Stuttgart from the 1870s for births? End quote. Perplexity gave me exactly what I needed. Stuttgart had multiple parishes in 1907. Böblinger Straße was in the Süd, or South District. The main Lutheran church for that area was Leonhardskirche. Church records for Stuttgart are available through Landesarchiv Baden-Württemberg. Some records are digitized on archion.de, a subscription site for German Protestant church records. It also explained that for a birth around 1875, I should look for Tauf register or baptism registers rather than civil birth records because church baptisms were the primary record-keeping method at that time. This was the local historical knowledge I needed. I now knew where to look. Leonhardskirche baptism registers for 1875. And I want to emphasize, this is the kind of information that used to require extensive research or hiring a local expert. Perplexity synthesized it for me in about 30 seconds with proper citations. For my UK listeners searching English or Scottish ancestors, you'd be asking similar questions about parish boundaries. For Australian listeners, you'd be working backward to UK parishes. The methodology is identical, you're just using Perplexity to understand different record-keeping systems. Now, I needed to find Heinrich's actual baptism record in those German church registers, and that meant dealing with Old German script. This was the moment I'd been both anticipating and dreading. Working with records written in Old German script, specifically Corinth script, which was standard in Germany until the 1940s but looks absolutely nothing like modern handwriting. Now, before I tell you what I did, I need to be completely honest about something. There's a specialized tool called Transcribus that is specifically designed for transcribing Old German handwriting, and it's really, really good. I actually did a complete walkthrough of Transcribus back in episode 9. Transcribus is the gold standard for this work. If you're serious about German genealogy, go back and listen to that episode. But in this research session, I wanted to test what I could do with the general AI tools I've been using, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Perplexity, without switching to a specialized tool. Could I get good enough results for initial document identification? When would I absolutely need to use Transcribus instead? Think of what I'm about to show you as the AI in a pinch approach versus the best practice approach. I accessed Archean.de, it's a subscription service, but they offer a free trial, and navigated to the Leonhardskirche baptism records for 1875. I found the register and started scrolling through baptism entries from that year. The handwriting was beautiful, flowing German script that I absolutely could not read. It looked like elaborate calligraphy, probably gorgeous to someone who can read current, but completely indecipherable to me. I needed to find an entry for Heinrich Mueller, son of Johann Mueller, baptized sometime in 1875. Now, if I had used Transcribus, it could have transcribed the entire page automatically with very high accuracy. But I wanted to see, what if I don't have Transcribus access right now? What if I just need to know if this is potentially the right record before I invest more time? Could the general AI chatbots give me enough information? I decided to try Gemini 2.5 first, since it had performed so well on the Ellis Island Manifest handwriting. I took a screenshot of a specific baptism entry that looked promising and uploaded it to Google AI Studio. Here was my prompt. Quote, "This is a German baptism registry entry from 1875 written in Old German script. Please attempt to transcribe what you can read. I'm looking for child's name, baptism date, parent's name, any location information. If the script is too difficult to read with certainty, please tell me which parts you're unsure about." End quote. What Gemini gave me back was a partial transcription with confidence levels. Child's name appears to be Heinrich, high confidence. Date, something in July 1875, uncertain, possibly July 14th or July 19th. Father's name, Johann Mueller, moderate confidence. Mother's name, uncertain, possibly Marie or Maria. Additional note, something about eigentlich geboren, which Gemini identified as meaning born in wedlock or legitimate birth. This was helpful for initial identification. I could see enough to determine this was probably the right record. The child's name appeared to be Heinrich, the father was Johann Mueller, and the time frame was right. But notice how Gemini flagged its uncertainty levels? It could read some parts, but not others. This is what I mean by AI in a pinch. It gave me enough to know I was looking at a promising record, but I wouldn't cite this as definitive without better verification. Based on this research experience, here's my recommendation for when to use which approach. Use general AI chatbots, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, when you're doing initial scouting to see if records are worth pursuing. You need a quick, is this probably the right person confirmation. You're working with typed German text, not handwritten. You only have 1 or 2 documents to check. Use Transcribus when you need accurate transcription for citation purposes. You're working through multiple pages of handwritten German records. The handwriting is particularly difficult or ornate. You want to train a custom AI model for a specific writer's style. You're writing a professional genealogy report. Think of it this way. General AI chatbots are like using Google Translate for modern German text. They'll get you the gist, but you wouldn't use them for translating a legal document. Transcribus is like hiring a professional translator who specializes in historical handwriting. For my purpose in this research, confirming that this was Heinrich Mueller, son of Johann, born in Stuttgart in 1875, the AI chatbot transcription was sufficient. I could see enough to confirm the essential details matched what I'd learned from the other records. But if I were writing a professional genealogy report or submitting this research for publication, I would absolutely use Transcribus to get a complete, accurate transcription of the baptism record and any other German document. Once you have German text transcribed, whether through Transcribus, AI Assistant, or manual copying, you need to translate it to English. For translation, any of the major AI tools works well. I personally use ChatGPT for this because it handles historical context and old terminology well. Here's a translation prompt that worked well for me. Quote, please translate this German baptism record from 1875 into English. This is a historical church record, so please, number 1, translate the content accurately. 2, explain any historical or religious terms that might not have direct English equivalents. 3, note if there are any German naming conventions I should be aware of, end quote. Then I pasted in the German text that Gemini had transcribed. This approach gave me not just word-for-word translation, but also the historical context I needed to understand what I was reading. So at this point, I had successfully traced Heinrich Mueller from his tombstone in Pennsylvania all the way back to his baptism records in Stuttgart, Germany. I'd crossed the Atlantic backward, navigated multiple record types, dealt with 2 languages, and used 4 different AI tools strategically. Let me wrap this up with practical takeaways you can use for your own research. Your immigrant ancestor probably isn't a German blacksmith named Heinrich Mueller, but the process I just walked you through works for immigrants from anywhere going to anywhere. Italian ancestor, same path, death certificate, naturalization, passenger list, Italian civil records. Different specific websites and record types, but identical methodology. Irish ancestor from the 1850s, different departure ports and earlier passenger list formats, but same strategic approach. For my UK and Australian listeners researching ancestors who remained in the Commonwealth, you'd use the same AI tools with parish records, census reports, and civil registration. The tools don't change, just the record types. The key is understanding the document trail for your specific ancestor's time period and location, then using AI to work through that trail efficiently. Now, I need to be honest about something I learned during this research. AI is powerful, but it has limits. There were moments when I wished I had human expertise. Some of the German handwriting was truly difficult. Even Gemini struggled with certain sections. Understanding historical context sometimes requires local knowledge AI doesn't have. Building complex proof arguments when sources conflict still benefits from human reasoning. Creative problem solving when expected records don't exist. In those situations, don't hesitate to reach out to a professional genealogist, join genealogy societies, or ask questions in online forums where experienced researchers can help. AI is an incredible research assistant, but sometimes you need a human research partner who can think creatively and understand nuance in ways AI can't yet match. Here's your homework assignment, and I really hope you'll try this. Take one of your immigrant ancestors. Pick just one. It doesn't matter if they came from Germany, Ireland, Italy, Poland, China, Mexico, or anywhere else. Map out their theoretical document trail. Number 1, what was the last place they lived? Start with death certificate or obituary. Number 2, where would they have naturalized? Which county? Which court? Number 3, what port did they arrive at and approximately when? Number 4, what port did they leave from in their home country? Number 5, what records might exist in their birthplace? Use Perplexity to help you figure out what records exist and where to find them. Don't worry about actually finding all the documents yet. Just build the roadmap. Then, share your research plan in our Facebook group, Ancestors and Algorithms AI for Genealogy. Tell us who you're researching and what document trail you've mapped out. I'd love to see what you come up with, and the community can offer suggestions if you get stuck. So there you have it. 6 hours of research compressed into just over 45 minutes of teaching. I crossed an ocean backward, worked with records in 2 languages, used 4 different AI tools strategically, and traced one man's life from grave to cradle. But here's what I really want you to take away from this episode. This is doable. You can do this for your ancestor. The tools exist. Many are free. The records are out there waiting. Will every ancestor be this straightforward? Absolutely not. Sometimes you'll hit brick walls. Sometimes records don't exist or haven't been digitized. Sometimes the trail goes cold. But having AI as your research assistant means you can work through available records faster and more efficiently than ever before. And remember that golden rule I mentioned twice today? AI is your research assistant, not your researcher. These tools help you work smarter, but you're still the one driving the research. You're still making connections. You're still telling the story. Thank you for spending this extended episode with me. I know 45 minutes plus is a long time, but I wanted to show you the complete process without cutting corners. I hope sharing my actual research experience was valuable. If this episode helped you, please like and follow Ancestors and Algorithms wherever you listen to podcasts. And join our Facebook group, Ancestors and Algorithms AI for Genealogy, where we can continue these conversations. You can reach me at ancestorsandai@gmail.com or visit ancestorsandai.com. Next week, episode 16, we're taking census records and using AI to put them into spreadsheets so you can trace your ancestors using the FAN method, friends, associates, and neighbors. It's a powerful technique that AI makes so much easier. This has been Ancestors and Algorithms. I'm your host, Brian. Until next week, happy researching.